Welcome to the Jeff Crilley Show. And now, here's Jeff Crilley.
Good Saturday morning. Hopefully everybody is polishing off the leftovers from a wonderful Thanksgiving. Cowboys on a winning streak. Mm-hmm. Can't believe it. We've got a jam-packed show today, and we're going to begin with a woman who has written a book, and you are going to love the title of this book, Dancing Naked.
Claiming your power as a conscious leader. The tagline's important.
All right. So tell us, Lori Darley, how did the book begin?
It started, first of all, Jeff, thank you for having me. It's great to be here, and thank you for the invitation. Dancing Naked actually started probably well over 10 years ago when I was transitioning out of a life as a dancer, choreographer, and artistic director for a professional contemporary dance company. And I started writing a memoir. And I wrote it and I completed it. And I decided after I rebranded my coaching business, which I began about 16 years ago, that when I shifted from transitions coach to conscious leaders, that I really wanted to have my first book out as an invitation to get to know me a little bit better and the evolution of my thinking and how I came to this work. And then also have an opportunity for people to experience the work that I do with my clients.
So when somebody hires you, what do they hire you to do?
A multitude of different things. It depends upon what the need is. On an individual level, people are often come to me. For instance, one client that I had was in a senior VP position, and she wanted to make her way to the C-suite. And so for her, it was a matter of understanding what made her tick, what her values were, and how she could best influence people. And she made it. So it was through the work of increasing our self-awareness and making sure that our relationships are as effective and as emotionally intelligent as possible that she was successful in her particular quest. And then I also work inside of businesses who want to align their values to either a social mission, for instance, a for-profit company that wants to solve a social and entrenched social or economic problem, and they want to do that through a for-profit business, or also just working inside of an organization with a leadership team to make sure that everybody is aligned to what it is that the organization is, what their mission is.
We talk a lot about millennials on this show, and I know that millennials are a different generation. They really want to work for a company that stands for something. It's not just I'm going to punch the clock 9 to 5 thing. How does your book relate to, management techniques or leadership techniques when it comes to this next generation of employees?
Thanks. It's a great question. I think that most of all that people want to, when they go to work, they don't want to have to check themselves at the door. They want to be their fullest, most authentic self. And that's hard, right? In organizations, we find ways to protect ourselves and play the politics and all the things that we feel like are necessary to get ahead. So when an organization actually wires into their fabric a way of working that brings people's strengths forward, that there is a conscious 360 culture of feedback, delivered in a way that pulls no punches. But when you're in an organization like that, you have to have a lot of emotional intelligence to be able to handle that and not take things personally. So Dancing Naked is really about, at an organizational level, how is it that we can create cultures inside of organizations where it matters that how people show up and that they are fully acknowledged as well as developed in a way that is consistent with their values. So the employees' values are aligned with the organizational values.
So tell me if I've got this right. Is Dancing Naked being fully authentic? Is that what the naked part means?
Yeah, it is. And it was meant to be evocative. No brown paper bag, though, necessary to cover the cover.
Sure, of course.
There's no actual dancing naked inside any of the stories. But it really is about understanding sort of the capacity of the human spirit, right? Who we are, and that our conditioning can layer on things that may not be really, for instance, when I was growing up, I was a middle child. I was very, very attached to my parents, communicating with one another, and I would be the charmer and I would be the performer. And that's great, right? That gets me places and opens doors for me. But as a coach and as a leader and as someone who develops others, I have to maybe sometimes turn down that winning way of being and turn up some of the other strengths of mine that are there. They're just buried under that conditioning that keeps me from maybe being as vulnerable as a leader as I could be.
Well, how do you draw from your dance career in your current, metamorphosis as a business coach? I mean, what lessons did you learn in dance?
Oh, huge lessons. One is, first of all, that we are not talking heads. We are fully embodied beings. And so as a dancer, I learned to express myself, obviously, through the discipline of ballet training, among other kinds of trainings. I took that training into the halls of business when I became a certified somatic coach. And what that means is I use embodied skills. For instance, I just led a practicum at a conference, and I had people on their feet, walking around, walking quickly. Some people were like leading with their heads. Other people were sauntering through the room. The body doesn't lie, Martha Graham said, and who is a famous modern dance pioneer. And when we are aligned in our bodies, we have a tendency of showing up with a lot more power. And so a gentleman who was in that conference practicum, he was very, very tall. And yet what he realized through the work that we did, and it's described in the prologue of the book, is that he inhabited 4 inches of his height where he had been stooped down, and he was recently taken over being CEO for a large strategy company, strategic sourcing company. And so that really allowed him to relax and be his fully empowered and tall self.
Lori Darley is my guest. She is the author of the just-released book, Dancing Naked. She's also a speaker and coach and business strategist. Her website is consciousleaders.us. So, Lori, tell us another story from the book. What I can't get enough of inspirational stories. Tell us. Give our audience a glimpse of what they'll read if they buy the book.
You know, I think that for one of the stories that really comes to mind is someone in a integrated marketing company, and she recognized that who she was much larger than the definition that that she had in front of her. She started a company, and she ran that company successfully for several years. And she realized that she had a larger vision for herself. And so she had to really look deep into her soul to see what was it that really mattered to her. And she traveled all over the globe on behalf of a larger organization that was trying to connect entrepreneurs. And through her experiences of that, she got very, very clear that she had a purpose much larger than even her business. And so now she is quite happily looking at other opportunities, still, of course, running the company, but in a way that is much more in line with what matters to her.
How does an executive know when he or she needs a business coach?
I think your results, right? When you're not getting the results that you want, when you have those, I'll call them problem children on your team, and perhaps you haven't faced the truth about that. And there are perhaps old, I call them crusty stories that have limited your success, and it's time to jettison those stories in a way that will support you and your team living into the vision that you know is truly possible. but you just haven't been able to get there on your own.
Well, I think New Year's is a wonderful time because it's a time of rebirth, a time to make New Year's resolutions. What are some New Year's resolutions that a savvy business owner or manager can make that will improve 2017 for them and their employees?
I think it's important for everyone to have some kind of mindfulness practice, whether that's meditation or prayer or running or dancing, some way in which you connect to that which is most important to you. And if you're someone who has never stepped onto the path of knowing yourself and knowing why you think the way you think, I think that's probably one of the biggest gifts that you can give yourself. Because when you understand your own biases, tendencies, and preferences that can often get in the way of making really powerful decisions, it's hard, especially as a leader, to get sometimes the truth told to you. So to really also, I would say, engage in some kind of 360 feedback so that you have an understanding of who is around you and how you're really showing up for people.
That's good. Well, who are some business leaders that you admire in terms of what they bring to a company? You think about some of these companies that we all think about as wonderful places to work. Southwest Airlines always finishes in the top 10.
Patagonia,
Google, yeah.
Patagonia, I think, is, I'm a very avid fan of certified benefit corporations. And so those are companies that actually have wired into them the stakeholder model. So Patagonia is one, seventh generation, which you see also in Whole Foods. Ben and Jerry's, they were some of the original founders. And of course, they were bought out by Unilever. But they were people who took into account not just the shareholders, but all the stakeholders inside of an organization.
Are you thinking about other books?
I'm just riding the wave on this one. This is just about a month and a half into the launch. And so I'm going to see about how other opportunities show up, opportunities to share the stories inside of the book, as well as just...
Absolutely. I know you also are a much sought-after public speaker. What are some groups that you prefer to speak to? Are there industries or types of groups that you prefer?
Yeah. I love organizations or conferences focused around women in business. As a matter of fact, I made the Amazon bestseller for women in business and the number 2 hottest new release. So I was excited about that. I have spoken and would love to return. I'm actually applying now for the Conscious Capitalism, the national conference in Philadelphia this year. I did last year in Chicago. I was talking about creating a conscious feedback culture. And really any organization that is looking for an alternative way to think about themselves and their leadership.
I personally really love the direction that businesses seem to be going in. When I was growing up, the hit movie was Wall Street. Greed is good.
Yeah.
And that seemed to kind of epitomize some of the business mentality in the 80s. And in this new millennium, I think the attitude is completely different, isn't it?
I think we have a broad mix, right? It's the human condition is always going to provide us with a broad range. I'm certainly enthused and hopeful that movements like the B Corp movement and conscious capitalism will give leaders some additional tools to look at how they create their own culture inside the organizations and communicating more effectively, always showing respect. Yeah,
you're a great guest, and we'll have to have you back again. Congratulations on your book. Give everybody the website one more time.
It's www.consciousleaders.us, and the book is available, Dancing Naked, Claiming Your Power as a Conscious Leader, on Amazon.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lori.
Thanks so much, Jeff.
Okay, coming up next, a design group based in Dallas that's changing the landscape one project at a time. The secret to their success, just ahead on The Jeff Crilley Show.
More of The Jeff Crilley Show coming up.